Well, hello, LinkedIn friends. Welcome to Get Nerdy with Bergie. I'm your host, Nicole Bergen, the lady with the red glasses. And today we are breaking down the topic of Google. There is so much to unpack in this topic. LSA, SEO, Performance Max, what are these things and when is it the best time to use them? I've got a special guest, Mr. Greg Guenther from WebFX, to help me break this down today. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Today, I'm super excited about a friend that I brought along to have a conversation about Google. There's so much to unpack on this topic. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce him. His name is Greg Guenther. He is a senior account executive at WebFX. We've had the pleasure of working together for some time now, Greg. And I understand it that you are one of the first employees at WebFX, I believe, number 20?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, I started when there was about 20 of us. We were operating in a basement in Carlisle, PA, at a warehouse. It was a tech accelerator program through just like a local government grant where our founders started the business, and then it really exponentially blew up from there. So a lot of people, it was kind of like at the perfect time when digital marketing became really an essential part of business growth. And as I started there, we started rapidly hiring. And now we're kind of at an employee base of like 700 with global offices. So it's been a wild ride over the past couple of years. I started there in 2012. So we're on year 14, which is kind of wild to think
Congrats.
about. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm curious, what are some of the industries that you've had the pleasure of working on and helping them embrace Google?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, anything under the sun. You could name it. I've done e-commerce businesses on the sell online. We've done restaurants. I've worked with lawyers. We work with heavy machinery and manufacturers. Um, I don't know. I mean, literally anything that sells online or does business online has probably been something that I've touched over, the 14 years that I've been doing this. Current client portfolio is just like made up of a lot of those things, working with, retail outlets. I have a heavy machinery manufacturing company that I work with. I have an e-com business. I have a home service client that does roofing. So yeah, like not really any specific specialty area, just a lot of anything that, uh, you know, wherever business can be done online is really where we're
Well,
kind of like inserting ourselves in.
yeah. Well, and I heard a couple of topics like B2B with the manufacturing, commerce is the big one that a lot of people are talking about, services, professional services like home services or personal injury firms. And a lot of
But
people
yeah,
that follow me are in these industries. So really excited to jump into this topic and unpack it. Where I'd like to start, Greg, is a really basic question, and I get asked it a lot, or get this comment. Nicole, we're spending a lot on Google. Should we be doing search or LSA or SEO or Performance Max? And so I'd love to get your POV on like first time. Let's start with like a personal injury firm, like professional services. Like where do you recommend that they start their Google journey?
yeah, and another great question. I mean, like it really is determined based on sort of the landscape of search. Like think about think about how you Google something, right? And you're going to Google for like a business, like a personal injury firm or a lawyer. You'll likely Google that, right? Personal injury lawyer, the best personal injury lawyer near me, or whatever it may be. And the starting point that I always kind of go with when I talk to clients is, what does search actually look like when you see that? What are you seeing in front of you? A lot of times in that case, you're going to find ads really all over the place. And that's going to take up a ton of real estate at the top of search right now. You'll see service-based companies at the top. You're going to see a map listing. You're going to see what they call sponsored results. And those are all going to kind of make up different aspects of what we would refer to as, your Google ad strategy and even your SEO strategy. In the case of a personal injury firm, super competitive market, which you're probably well aware of, right?
Yes.
Those costs per clicks are insanely high. Search ads are typically
What are
very
some of the
expensive.
I'm curious, what are some of the highest fees that you've seen in that industry? Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, personal injury. I mean, like that, when we do research from like an industry POV, right, and we're
Hmm.
trying to collect data around our client base, personal injury is always the number one, where it's like the most expensive in terms of like cost per
Cost per
click.
click.
Yeah, it is always like at that top. Um, I think the last time I saw something, we're talking like 75, $80 per click. It's like insanely
And what
expensive
is
to
that? What
drive.
does that compare to like a retailer?
Oh, yeah, retail, I mean, can be anywhere between like $5 and $10.
That's a crazy gap.
It is a
So,
crazy gap.
so break down for me when, especially this comes up in personal injury. What's the difference between LSA and PPC?
Yeah, so LSAs are really only geared for service businesses, and a great, and I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't run them specifically for a personal injury firm. I don't have a lawyer on my roster at the moment, so I haven't done that, with LSAs being a relatively new initiative that Google rolled out.
Right.
However, I can
Which
speak
stands for
more
local search.
lo
Go ahead.
local service
Local
ads.
service ads.
Local
There we
service
go.
ads.
Sorry.
Yep. So LSAs mean local service ads. But what I can tell you is I work with a roofing company, and local service ads are a premier and relevant part of their business. Think about any type of service company, right? It could be HVAC or a plumber, a roofing company, anybody that you need to interact with for a service. Google has created a campaign type called local service ads where it's strictly based on call interactions or message interactions with that business directly. So you have to submit a business license to be able to run these. You have to get approved by Google to do it. So there's a lot of like pre-qualifying steps that you have to go through in order to be verified to run these ad campaign types. So they're kind of
And you have to
secondary
have
to
like a
your
physical office. Like I
a
know with
physical
some, yeah,
office.
that you have to be
Yep.
able to verify. Yep.
Yeah, because it's actually tied to your Google business profile. So you have to have a launched verified Google business profile, like in the maps. And then you
GBP.
go, yep. And then you go through the process of submitting your business documentation and then getting verified by Google to be able to run a local service ad. These aren't super expensive when you're running them. However, there is so many different components to making them work for you that you have to be in tune with, right? So, like I said earlier, local service ads typically drive call volume to a business. They are very call centric based, right? Uh, so,
Direct
um,
response.
yep. So you're going to, as a customer searching for, I need best roofing company near me, you're going to get results at the top called local service ads that showcase like 3 to 4 roofing companies. You can click on the call icon. It'll prompt the ability to place a call to the business, and typically it's the call center or the main line or whoever picks it up. But the catch is in local service ads, there is an interface that Google offers here where you have to directly manage that inbound lead. So this is on top of what you would probably use as like a CRM for your business. You actually have to go into the local service ad platform that Google provides to you, and you have to mark information about this lead. So what they ask you is the name, the email, the phone number, and a description of the call. So adding that information is step one. And then after like appointment is booked, right? Say like the caller calls in, speaks to a representative, books something like a free inspection for their roof. You then have to go in and say an appointment was booked, right? So that sends those signals back to Google that this was a qualified lead. And because Google is all algorithmically based, it incentivizes Google to drive more leads like that one, right? If you don't do this, what ends up happening is performance just starts dwindling off, right? Because you're not engaging with the lead details that Google's providing to you. So if you don't actually go into the LSA platform and manage those leads, you're just not going to get leads in the future period of time, because Google's just going to stop serving leads to you because you're not doing anything with them.
Well,
So
so what I'm hearing you say is that it's a highly effective
incredibly so.
resource for service-based businesses, but it sounds like it takes a fair amount of managing of it to really see its impact.
That's 100% true. And honestly, anymore, a lot of growth around Google Ads requires some aspect of management, right? So whereas in the past, you could do something, like a pay-per-click ad, right? Your traditional Google search ad.
What, and just for our audience, what's an example of that?
Keyword based. So like you go to Google.
Let's stick with the roofing example.
Yeah, you could Google the same thing and say like emergency roof repair or 24 emergency roof repair, right? You're Googling more of a keyword, and you're looking for a business that's kind of running a traditional search ad where it's going to say like, business name, emergency 24/7 emergency roof repair with like an ad description and then some site links, right? These are your more traditional search ads that have shown up all the time and have always been present as a part of Google. Now LSAs kind of take a higher placement above those, so there's more real estate given to those, but search ads are still part of the marketing mix.
Okay, so far, hold on, let's just recap.
Yeah, there's a lot here.
We've talked about SEO, right? SEO, which is organic and optimizing your website and things for keywords to show up organically, number one. Number two, we talked about paid search campaigns. You just mentioned LSA ads, which is really big in the service industry. And then, of course, the behemoth that I would like to bring up next is Performance Max. So this has been around a couple years now, and it's a Google full funnel strategy. Why don't you break it down for us? What is Performance Max?
Yeah, so Performance
Plain
Max...
English, Greg. Plain English.
I'll do my best.
All right.
Performance Max is like what I typically tell people is that it's an all-inclusive ad inventory strategy. And what I mean by that is it combines every ad type Google offers to you in a singular campaign structure. And the catch with Performance Max is that it is not keyword based. The catch behind Performance Max is that it is audience signal based. So the difference here is with search ads, where you're controlling the visibility of your ad by a keyword or a key phrase like 24/7 emergency roof repair, Performance Max is set up to serve towards people interested in emergency roof repair services or gutter repair services or something along those lines, right? So you're not controlling it by a keyword. You're essentially utilizing Google's algorithm that exists, all the data it's collected from users to serve ads to consumers interested in the type of business that you are.
So you and I do. I do Performance Max, so I'm familiar with all the creatives that you have to upload. And help keep me honest with this one, but I know it's headlines. It's like 12 different headlines. There's images. Like how many images roughly? I forget for a PMax campaign.
So I'll break that all down for you.
Okay, let's do it.
15 headlines.
All right, 15 headlines.
5 long descriptions.
Okay. How many? Wait, 5 long descriptions. Like
I think it's like 90 characters.
Okay. Okay.
And then 5 short descriptions, which I think is 30 characters. And then you need images, which includes up to 5 logo variations. So if you have like a square logo and a landscape logo, like you can do all that. And then 20 lifestyle type graphics.
And those are different sizes.
They are different sizes. So you need square, vertical, and portrait, like your traditional like landscape size. And then you also need video.
It's the hardest part.
So video is the hardest part. Video is the hardest part for everybody.
Wouldn't you agree that that's one of the reasons why people hesitate on Performance Max?
100%.
Because they're like, I don't have video.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
honestly, you don't get, so Google rates every ad on sort of a quality score, right?
Yep.
So you have like,
Poor,
bad, poor,
average,
yeah, that's
good,
what it is. Poor,
excellent.
poor,
Yep.
average, good, excellent. You will never get an excellent rating if you don't have video,
I know
right?
that. I can attest to that. If you do not, you heard it correctly from Greg. If you do not have video in your Performance Max campaign, it is impossible to get excellent creative status.
That's correct. Yeah. So, and the problem with that is it limits your ad rotation, right? So Google uses that as a benchmark to serve ads, and if you don't have an excellent quality score rating, your rotation of your ads in front of searchers will be limited by that.
Okay, so now we've overcome the hump of all of this creative that you just outlined. Where the heck am I going to see these quote ads as a consumer? Give me some examples.
Yeah. So traditional display, right? So like say you're on a website and there's a media placement on that website that it can include like video and graphics, right? That you typically see like on a news website. It's a great place where Performance Max will show up.
CNN.com?
Correct. Yep. Can
Okay.
show up there. Yep.
That's called the Google Display Network or no?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
GD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Google's display network. Yep.
Okay.
You'll see them run on YouTube. So like a pre-roll ad, right? So like, when you watch a YouTube video and there's like a 15-second clip prior to the video you're watching, your ad
Ooh,
could show
let's
up
time
there.
out. Let's time out. On YouTube, though, there's skippable and non-skippable. How
Yeah.
does that get determined?
Yeah, so skippables and non-skippables are defined by length. Really, 15 seconds or less are often set up through YouTube's inventory to be non-skippable ads, right? So that's kind of the max length for ad creative for a
All right,
non-skippable
you heard
video.
it from Greg from WebFX. You want to keep those videos under 15 seconds if you don't want them to be skipped.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
You can run the kind of prime suggestion is the 30-second, right? If you run anything higher than 30 seconds, it's just going to get skipped and not seen. So that's going to be an issue, right? So you definitely want to make sure that it's 30 seconds or less, 15 if you don't want it to be skipped. So yeah, you'll see them in YouTube, right, as a pre-roll ad. Also, there's kind of like sponsored ads in YouTube, like in the search to the right of where video like libraries are. Your ad could show there. Your ad could show below as like a traditional ad underneath the video. You'll see stuff there.
Okay, Greg. So to summarize, this ecosystem of Google can place all of these creatives pretty much all over the web, whether it be YouTube or display, Gmail, you mentioned a news website. Can I, as an advertiser, force where my ads get shown through Performance Max?
You can't, no. So the only thing that you can do to control sort of optimized placements is through exclusion efforts. So you can start excluding placement exclusions, right? So if you are finding that your ad is heavily served in like a YouTube space, right, you can start going through and excluding YouTube channels or apps and things like that that often don't drive high click-through rates or high conversions for you, and overemphasize obviously the display of your ad and your creative. So yeah,
So
that's often the best suggestion.
an example of that on a campaign you and I worked with is I believe we suppressed YouTube on mobile devices to try to I believe, didn't we force, we want it for the living room screen, so we like suppressed mobile and laptop, or like the percentage that video impressions could go there to try to force the issue of placing the ads on the living room screen. Does that
Yep.
ring a bell?
Yeah, so in your campaign settings, you can choose that, right? You can choose device type and say you only want to serve on certain device types, which can impact performance in a positive way for you if you find, maybe your business is heavily engaged by mobile traffic or desktop traffic, depending on the type of business you are. But yeah, you really just kind of can choose that option. You can't really detail the difference of like percent that way. What we did together was actually more in just a general YouTube media buy with our video creative, which is a whole second
Oh,
option,
that's
right?
great. Okay, we're not
Yeah.
gonna go. That's a different conversation. Well, you can
Yeah.
do that through YouTube buys, FYI.
Yes, you
Okay.
can be a little bit more specific in YouTube media buys where you want your ads to show and how. But yeah,
Okay.
in Performance Max, you don't have as much control over like the ad inventory. It's really secondary to the fact. The things that you can exclude are placements and search terms, right? So you can say, oh, these search terms are really garbage. We don't want our ads to serve for these terms. We want to exclude them. It's very much like a negative keyword, which is very traditional thing that you can do in search ads too.
So a larger kind of broader question I have about Performance Max is, when is it appropriate, or when does it make more sense? I get, for example, like a lot of my personal injury firms that I work with are not big on Performance Max. They'd rather
Yeah, I'm
prioritize
sure they are.
LSA. Retail brands, right? Especially if you're trying to chase like a brand that you carry in your retail. Like if I'm trying to think of an example. You're a furniture retailer and you're carrying Tempur-Pedic. You might want to run a Tempur-Pedic branded Performance Max campaign to capture intent for Tempur-Pedic and tell them to come to your Nicole's furniture store to buy it.
Yeah. So I think it really is dependent on your end goal, right? Like what conversion action are you trying to support? And that is what's going to determine the campaign type that's most helpful to you. So in your case, if you are a physical retail store, Performance Max offers the option to drive conversion actions around store visits and store
Store
sales.
visits, right?
Yeah, and that's the only campaign type that offers that option. So you have the benefit of optimizing for things like foot traffic and local interactions and tracking store sales around that campaign type. So, you can use that to your benefit to influence sales at your store by advertising, a product category, a product collection, a brand, something that's really highly influential that will
But
likely drive that
how
sale.
I know we don't have a ton of time and I want to go back to service industries, but really quickly, since we're on this topic, how does it know to optimize for store visits? How does it know if a person went to a store, or how does it know to optimize for sales? Like, how would it know that?
Yeah, so I mean, Google collects a ton of data about you, right? And that's pretty much it. So if you
They're
think
chasing
about
me to the store,
right, I mean, if you think about this, right? Everybody
right?
has like one of these
Google
anymore.
Maps, they
Yeah.
know.
So the moment you take your phone and you Google something and you interact with that ad, right? It's going to start tracking your data. Whether or not you like that is another question. But I mean, let's be real. Every sort of search that you're doing on your phone is probably being tracked to some degree at this point. And really, that's what Google's using to optimize the ad performance for you. So the moment that you as a consumer search something, interact with the ad, and then maybe a couple days later come and visit the store, it's closing that loop because Google is able to track that interaction from your device and all the data it's collecting from you as a user. I do
We're
want to
always
talk.
watching and
They are always
tracking
watching.
you.
They are always watching. I do want to talk quickly, though, about using Performance Max as a lead gen tool because there is a ton of value here. If you are a B2B business that's looking to drive leads for your company and you're scared about Performance Max, you have every right to be scared, right? Because if a lot of times what ends up happening is you launch a Performance Max ad and it's going to drive a ton of garbage leads to your inbox that you have to filter
You
through.
want to control where it goes. And you just told us a few minutes ago you can't control it. So, of course,
Right.
I'm scared.
It's like the number one complaint I get all the time from clients that launch performance hacks is all these leads are garbage. Yeah, I hear you. The win to this is an integration. So Google supports offline conversion data integration,
Whoa, whoa,
right?
whoa. What is that? Plain
Right.
English.
So you have a CRM, right? You're collecting leads from your CRM. And initially that CRM is going to take a lead, right? You get a lead from anywhere. They're going to be understanding your CRM as a new lead. Well, you're going to qualify that lead at some point, right? So, the next step in your checkpoint is, they want service from us, or they want a proposal from us, or I made contact with them and we're in that sales conversation. We would mark that as a qualified lead, right? And then say that customer ends up closing, 60, 90 days from that initial touch point, and you're marking that lead now as closed one. Every single one of those touch points can be fed back to Google through what we call a data integration, right? So you can connect your CRM to Google Ads. Google uses first party data to enhance your ad performance. So the benefit to
Your
you is
your first party data.
your
Because they
first party
want
data
your data, but it actually benefits you because they can help optimize
for
finding
more
lookalikes.
quality leads.
That's right.
Correct. So what ends up happening here is you're now bidding closer to the bottom of the funnel with your ad strategy, right? So now we're not looking at just driving as many form completions as we want. We are now looking to drive as many qualified leads or as many customers as we want, right? Because we're now feeding data offline, or we're now feeding Google offline conversion data about our customers. And we can tell Google, hey, let's exclude this top of the funnel inbound form data. Let's get more of this like middle qualified lead data because this is really influencing our bottom line strategically. And what's happening here is your cost per clicks are, decreasing. Your ability to drive bottom of the funnel conversions is also increasing, and it's getting cheaper to do so. So it is a huge win for B2B lead gen businesses if they're able to support an integration strategy with their marketing mix. I cannot stress that enough. And I would die on that sword. I would
Oh,
literally, yeah, I would. I mean, like, clients that I've been doing this with for 2-3 years at this point are far surpassing their competition just because they're able to bid towards customers in the pipeline rather than just like having to filter through garbage leads at the top of the funnel.
but the key is that integration, right? Is
The
integrating
integration.
your data into Google makes that possible. How should businesses, Greg, think about pacing Google spend month to month?
Yeah, well, seasonality is always going to be a factor into this conversation, right? So a home service business, right, is going to
Like,
have
you want to have a
seasonal.
high spend on Brown Friday. If you don't know what that is, Google it.
You're gonna want to have high spend during spring summer months, right? When people are looking for like home renovation projects, right?
Mhm.
And in the winter, it's often, that you're going to decrease spend a little bit. But something that you have to think about is kind of the advanced tactic strategy of kind of ramping up your spend in that period of time leading into your peak period, right?
All right, so
So
wait, time out, because this brings up a different, more complicated
yeah, there's
topic about the algorithm and
yeah,
the learning phase. Can we
the
just
learning
manage
phase.
client expectations about the learning phases? It typically takes how long? You can't just turn it on and go from 5 grand to 20 grand a month and then immediately see impact. Can you quickly break that down for me? Because you know who I'm talking about that would
Yeah,
probably want
15
that.
days.
15
15
days.
days. Yeah,
Because
15
it
days
has
is
to
kind of the standard.
find. Yeah.
That's correct.
And
Yeah. So,
and then on the back end, on the attribution side, right? It takes about 15 days for that window to close to collect, President's Day just happened, right? You got to wait about 15 days for that attribution window to close to collect the correct ROAS numbers for that campaign, return on ad
that's
spend.
exactly right. Yep.
So that's just something to look out for on pacing. So when would you say it makes sense to spend more aggressively? And I'm actually going to use an example to tease this one. I'm, I like to optimize for ROAS, right? Return on ad spend. And we recently were going into a peak season and we were looking at a campaign that was at a 14 ROAS. And I said, Greg, to me, that says there's more demand opportunity and that we could lower that ROAS and actually reach more intent shoppers if we were to level up that spend. And it worked because the retailer ended up having one of their best President's Day weeks in company history outside of the COVID bubble. So that gamble, and actually it was a pretty calculated gamble between the two of
Yeah,
us,
for sure.
it paid off. Tell me another example where that would apply.
Yeah. I mean, strategically,
When do you spend more aggressively?
I spend more aggressively when the demand, just like you said, is there, right? So, if we are hitting above that ROAS target very easily, the the next course of action to optimize your campaign is to reduce that return on ad spend. Because what happens with that model is that it does open up the ad inventory for you, right? By bidding towards the return on ad spend or the conversion value, you're kind of putting that hold in place to get profitability in line, right? So if you're hitting those numbers or hitting above those numbers, you're overperforming against the expected return on ad spend, right? So if you reduce that target, you're now going to open up a greater inventory placement of your ads to attract more consumers into your marketing funnel, right? So you're getting more inventory out there, you're going to get more clicks, you're going to get more traffic, and then your line is to essentially want to maintain your conversion rate, right? So if you have a strong conversion rate, great, because then you're going to get more revenue in that space as well, which is going to be super helpful to you. And that's
So,
really what we ended up doing, right?
right,
For President's
right.
Day.
Mm-hmm. What is a good ROAS target?
Oh, that's really determined by any business. um, I mean, 5, 6x is really good, right? Like if you think about like, if you're making $6 for every $1 you're investing in something, that's pretty reasonable in terms of like a profitable like metric. But I think it's really all determined based on your cost and whatever you have as part of your business model. All those things can be super calculated, right? And that's kind of the benefit to Google, and how you bid towards a conversion value, because you can really look at the profitability there. Case in point, I had a client where our sole goal was to break even. And the reason for that is because in the second year of their subscription model as a business, their rate of the subscription increased by a certain percent. So as long as they retained their customers through their product, and their customer service, which I think their retention rate was like 60 or 70%, right? Their value was incredibly high. Their long-term or lifetime values of a customer was
Yeah, the
incredibly high.
lifetime value, customer value. Yeah.
Yeah. So our sole goal all the time was like a 1x or 100% return on ad spend, right? Because we just wanted to break even through that strategy, right? Because the lifetime value was part of the marketing funnel for them. And it gave them, profitability in the long-term play. So yeah,
Well, so you said 5 to 6x. I would agree with that. Just a quick shout out to the WebFX team and Greg, because he would never say this on his own. But the campaign that we're currently working on is a 9.18. Little round of applause for you, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's pretty great. We'll have to talk about Meta on another call. But to wrap up our time together for this call about Google, if you could simplify for a regional business owner, the types, what actually works today with Google? How would you do that? Simplify that for me.
A full funnel marketing mix in Google. Google plays a role in sort of every single touch point for a consumer at this point. The story and narrative I say is, you watch a commercial and what do you do next? You're going to Google something, right? You often have a device in your hand if you're watching TV at any point on anything. And then you're going to take your device and Google whatever that thing is. And that's the next action that you're playing with, right? So investment in Google is really kind of the key play. And making sure that you have a full funnel strategy in the works that incorporates video, search, local service ads if you're your own business, local SEO for maps, and then your tried and true SEO efforts, right, which is going to be your organic listings at the bottom. Those all play a role in the marketing mix and have to be a part of your marketing strategy moving forward, especially as digital has taken over a lot of that, aspect of the consumer's mindset. It's a huge play anymore in your marketing strategy as a business. Not to mention, I mean, we didn't even talk about AI, which
that's another call. We'll have you back. We still got to talk about Meta and AI. That's a whole nother call. But let me just give you guys really quick my CMO takeaways here. Google Ads isn't a slot machine. It's a system. And systems reward clarity. What's so great about the integration piece that Greg mentioned is you can optimize in real time using your data it's calculated risk. It's not shit to the wind, excuse my language, right? It's calculated. And so just think about that. It is, you want to play a game, Greg? For every dollar I give you, you give me 9.18. You want to play? Let's play right now. That's a great game. So there you have it. I love to end these sessions, Greg. First of all, I think it's really funny that we're both wearing green today. That was not coordinated. Not coordinated. But I like to always end with lightning round. So it's just a minute or two. I got a couple lightning round questions for you, and we'll finish up our time together. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. What's a Google Ads myth you wish you could retire forever?
Google Ads myth that I wish I could retire.
Ooh. I mean, you kind of hinted at one, that it can't be a full funnel strategy when it actually can. That's what I would have said. But I'm not going to answer the question for you.
I was going to say, I'm going to double down and say, like, the amount of people that tell me Performance Max is a no-go, and I'm like, you have to do Performance Max. So I will double down on that one all the time and say, like, we have to make this work. So don't tell me that Performance Max will not work for you, because it can absolutely work. And we'll figure it out and how it will work for you. So you have to consider it. But yeah, that would be something that I would definitely lean into, and would love to get rid of that, in the myth talking point.
Gotcha. If you could ban one phrase from client calls as it relates to Google, I already know what mine is. It's like the algorithm. If I had a t-shirt that just said the algorithm, I am so tired of hearing that, but I'd love to hear what yours is. What's one word or phrase you wish you could ban?
Oh, all the time. I won't give Google my data. Okay.
Right. Yep.
I mean, what I would say to that too, when those conversations come up, is like, yeah, you're just going to lose to your competition at this point. It's going to happen. So yeah,
good advice.
You definitely have to consider
it. WebFX, Senior Account Executive. All right, last one. Be honest. You work in marketing and advertising. You're buying lots of Google and video impressions. Are you skipping the ads as a consumer in incognito mode, or are you consuming them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do skip YouTube ads. I do find myself clicking on ads, though, more frequently now, which is funny, because for a long time, I was not an ad clicker. But now, with so much real estate given to ad placements, and again, the benefit of first-party data and all of the information it's collecting about me and how it combines with search and signals, I'm seeing a lot more precise targeting of ads and what I want when I search at the top. So yeah, I'm clicking on the product listings. I'm clicking on the sponsored ads. I'm finding the roofers that I want to talk to at the top in the sponsored ad results, right? So yeah, I do engage with those a lot more than I probably did 10 years ago.
Because you know why? Because they're more relevant to you.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and they've gotten more relevant, right?
And that's because the algorithm is working.
It is. Yeah. I'm a data person, right? So for me, it's like, yeah, that it's working because I've made it work for that target, right? That's the point of it. So yeah, I mean, so I click on them. I do skip YouTube ads, though.
Oh, but not the 15-second.
Not the 15 ones, because you can't. But oh my God, how many times have you gotten on a YouTube video, and it's like a paid ad, and it's like the 90-minute video that they're advertising? I've seen those, right? Skip them every time.
They clearly don't have you managing their accounts.
They absolutely don't.
Well, listen, that wraps up our time together with Get Nerdy with Bergie and Friends. It's such a pleasure to have you here, Greg Guenther, Senior Account Executive at WebFX. If you want to jump into the Google ecosystem, feel free to reach out to him. What's your email address, Greg?
Greg at WebFX. Yep. I'm an OG employee, so it's my name. WebFX.com. Yep.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.